all. Thank you everyone for coming. This is sort of a hybrid Zoom, Instagram, in-person thing. But this is so nice. Thank you. We have Chris Cosnowski is here in person, and and via Zoom we have Laura Karetzky, we have Stuart Snoddy, Emil Robinson, Puoch. Oh, Andrew's here. Yay, cool. Andrew Gordon. I've never met you, but I'd like to someday. And oh, and Ben Shirtliff, he's the writer of the beautiful catalog essay. So I'll start with the letter that sort of inspired this show. And then we can talk about the work. Maybe I'll pick up the laptop and we're just gonna go around and talk about paintings. But yeah, there was a beautiful letter. It was in 1882, a man wrote a letter to his wife, Martha. It read, tables and chairs, beds, mirrors, a clock to remind the happy couple of the passage of time, an armchair for an hour's pleasant daydreaming, carpets to help keep the floors clean, linen tied with pretty ribbons in the cupboard, and dresses of the latest fashion, and hats with artificial flowers, pictures on the wall, glasses for every day, and others for wine and festive occasions, plates and dishes, and the sewing table and the cozy lamp, and everything must be kept in good order, or else the couple who has divided their hearts into little bits, one for each piece of furniture, will begin to fret. And this object must bear witness to the serious work that holds the household together, and that object to a feeling for beauty, to dear friends one likes to remember, to cities one has visited, to hours one wants to recall. Are we to hang our hearts on such little things? And he says, yes, absolutely, and without hesitation. I love that letter. It's very, very sweet. But it turns out this letter was written by Sigmund Freud, who is a wildly sexist and largely discredited psychoanalyst. His contributions to culture now seem a little less certain, but still the letter contains beautiful sentiment. It's highly edited. And what do we do with tarnished things? Can the good parts be enjoyed separately from the bad? If you think of an expensive present that was a gift from an ex-lover, do you keep it? It's too nice to give away, but while deciding what to do with such a thing, the object remains in the back of a drawer, perhaps never to be used or seen again. The objects in our home are charged with power. They can give us joy, but they can just as easily remind us of a painful childhood memory, a departed loved one, a failed relationship. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but sometimes it's not. And so that's the starting point for this show. I feel every artist in the show makes work that's fits into that theme. Except for you, Stuart. You're the one outlier who I think this was more of an assignment for you. Do you want to talk about that? You want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm not. It's not. Yeah. As a practice, I haven't really painted objects as a theme for a while. But it's not something that I don't do per se. It's just something that I'm trying to like. I mean, even if it's an object, it's usually a thing. So I think like in a way that kind of fits into your theme. Yeah.
I just want to talk to everyone who's here. It's probably hard for the people in the room to hear this audio. So I don't know.
We close in on you?
Yeah, does that make sense? You can hear the laptop audio a little bit. Yeah, don't be afraid. I'm not sick. We've got let's see, we've got Laura here, Laura Karetzky. She made the painting in the next room of the beautiful glass. This painting. Do you want to talk about it for a moment, Laura? Unmute your.
Sure.
Sure. So this painting is, I would say, in some ways typical of the kind of work that I'm making, maybe not in terms of composition or the objects, which are specific to this, but for about 10 years, I've really been interested in how we sit in space and where and how we experience things, and sort of the idea of where are the boundaries of that multifaceted experience that we can have, especially now we experience that while we're zooming and that kind of thing, where you know, where is one space autonomous and where does it become several spaces, and how do we, what is the idea of actuality or truth when we are inhabiting several spaces and several stories and several narratives, and one thing can happen and several people can experience it from several different perspectives, and that's different realities as well. So so I'm really interested in that perspectively, but also narratively in my work. And so the idea of several stories within one visual composition, or several different perspectives within one composition. However, when I make my work, I never set up an artificial sort of scenario. I respond to things that really happen. So in the case of this painting, this was a real experience that I had where, you know, I finished my drink, and at the bottom of the glass, I suddenly saw the person across from me. And it's moments like that that give me pause in real life, where I, you know, I turn those into images that inhabit that idea.
Should we go, does everyone want to go see it? Should we go in there? Can I? We'll just move. Yeah. I love this painting. This is the painting that I keep saying, I wish I painted this painting. I love this. But we're heading there. But this is the painting, if you haven't seen it. But I love it. I love the I love that the little man at the bottom of the glass. I love, like, you know, we make some of our most important decisions in bars when we're drunk. like, and I feel like a lot of us can relate to that feeling of like, yeah, when we choose our partners, like, you know, we're not, that's maybe one of the most important choices you make in your life. And a lot of the times it just boils down to like, oh, he was cute. Or like, he was a good dancer. That's what my grandmother said. She was like, your grandfather was a good dancer. Like, so you decided to build an entire life on that? That's the foundation. That's what I love about this little hazy man. Yes.
So that's not a point of view that you were saying that was across the table. So it's like a, I guess, an illusion or an optical effect. It's not a self-portrait.
Oh, no, it's not a self-portrait. No, it is the person who is my partner. And what's also just sort of in terms of weighted blanket, or that thing that, because I paint things from real life, because I'm not setting up an artificial scenario, I'm always responding to conversations I'm having, or places where I am, or the way the light fell, or the way an object sat in front of another object. I tend to paint my family members over and over again, and they're not portraits of them by any means. This is not about his personality or anything like that, but it's a starting place. But those family members have become kind of sacred objects for me in some ways, where I can rely on them. I can rely on their gestures, their hand, their elbow entering a frame, that they've become kind of my studio tools in some ways. The people who are my immediate friends and family appear in my paintings all the time as a narrative device.
When at the opening, you had talked about these being your muse.
Mm-hmm.
You said you wanted to introduce me to your muses, and I mean, with your partner, or just anyways.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean, that like, yeah, because my father was an artist and we were, I guess, his muses. So it's not
Mhm.
in you, or whatever, your muses.
Exactly. And so I remember my daughter saying to me when she was very young, maybe she was 4, and I had done several paintings of her and her sister, and she said to me, Mama, how come you paint me so mysterious? And that was her 4-year-old way of saying, I know it's me because I see my features, but I don't recognize my personality. And what I said to her was, you're like an actor helping me tell a story. It's a story. You're like, you're just a collaborator. You're an actor helping me tell that. So they're never portraits. They're not, they're just, but they have become collaborators in many ways. My 2 daughters, I painted a lot. And at some point I was painting a friend's kid. Her name was Veronica Colhane, and I was painting her a lot. And I remember my oldest daughter was then about 7, and she said to me, Mama, when are you going to stop painting that Colhane kid? They kind of got envious because they enjoyed the collaboration of, what was I working on today? And they'd love to see, and they felt empowered by that, collaboration of helping me tell a story.
As long as we're here, let's talk about your painting, Chris. Let's move on. We've right next door is Chris Cosnowski's painting, this large trophy. You can see it's I think it's the biggest painting in the show. And it's from 1999.
1999.
Wow.
The second one I did in grad school.
The second painting from grad school.
Yeah. Well, the part of that became part of the series. Yeah. So for me, it was just the idea of paint. I saw bowling trophies in a thrift store one day because I moved to Chicago to go to grad school at Northwestern. I was a still life artist. And I was in the thrift store looking for objects, and I saw these bowling trophies. I'm like, wouldn't it be hilarious to do a hyper real painting of a bowling trophy? And that kind of what started it. I thought it was funny. And the stuff that I thought was funny about it, I think it's because it relates to classical art. It's like a statue. It's in an athletic pose, like an ancient Greek sculpture. And the idea of trophies being all about winning, and that fits into our capitalist culture. So it's just such a loaded image, and plus it was just so much fun to paint. I'd never painted a reflective object before, so I really got into it. It's like,
You do a lot of self-portraits?
Hmm?
You do a lot of self-portraits?
The trophies always have a little bit of a self-portrait in it. This is the most overt one. I haven't done another trophy with an urn that has the actual convex self-portrait. But they always have a little reflection. You can see it like spotting throughout, little bits of me like kind of sneak in there. So it's almost like a reverse voyeurism, or like peering out. It goes back to the Dutch still lives. We've talked about that. Clara Peters, and that's also part of it. And
Yeah.
that's a memento mori too. And it really does fit into that Dutch tradition, that shiny object, the skill-based stuff.
Yeah.
And plus, when I started, I remember thinking, because in the end of the 90s, I think we're still in that era of like de-skilling of art. So it's like laughing about, like, oh, I'm winning with this realistic painting. This is also that play.
Well, yeah, it's held up pretty well. I mean, from 1990, it's
Except for the cracks.
few cracks, but I mean, we talked about this when you came in, that like all painting is really about death and about like
Yeah.
battling death, and like part of you lives forever.
I was here.
I was here and I looked like this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I did look like that. It was a happy accident that I was shirtless, because that was my 4th floor walk up. The radiated heat was like sweltering in my studio. So just I was sweating so bad, and that really adds another
yeah.
comic element.
Yeah. And then right next door to you is Lynn Puoch's painting. And this is the little toilet paper. And I like these two together because I think Lynn is our youngest painter in the show. And I asked him before we started, Lynn was 4 when the trophy was painted. So that's kind of amazing. I mean, and now they're in conversation with each other. And I think they're both kind of like the most, like maybe macho paintings, the most like painting in the show. Lim, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Okay, cool. This is actually my professor's like bathroom. But kind of the idea of like bathrooms started, I was working a job that I didn't really love, and I would always just go off into the bathroom and just kind of sitting there and thinking like, this is kind of cool, like just kind of a getaway, until like a boss of mine came and like found me, was like, hey, you have to come back. And it was like kind of invasive a bit. And then somehow I just started to paint bathrooms as a way of like practicing painting. And then I'm like, there's something kind of here, like just this space of the mundane or whatever, just kind of relaxing and just sitting. And then like the aspect of like cleaning kind of came to mind. Like you wash your hands, you're like cleaning your body somehow, whether you're peeing or pooping or whatever. And then even like with a toilet paper is a way of cleaning. So that's how I came about. Yeah.
The original painting I wanted for the show was a toilet paper roll sitting on top of the holder. Like somebody didn't take the time to just open it up and put the toilet paper on the holder. And I loved that gesture. And I loved the like, what that said, like the laziness and the like, oh, come on, just do it. But that painting sold. So congratulations. But and then the other one I wanted was a crumpled towel, which was a similar kind of like selfish behavior manifested in a towel, but that also sold. So congratulations. But yeah, but I love bathrooms too. I love all the beautiful, like the different surfaces, tile, chrome, mirrors, paper, terry cloth. There's like beautiful, beautiful surfaces to paint. And then, yeah, as a young painter, like just to build your skill. And I wish I should show everyone the back of this, because it's like, this is painted on linen and I feel like it's like rabbit skin glue. Like I smelled it when I opened it and it smelled so great. It smelled like beautiful, beautiful painting.
I've got a question
Mhm.
for Lim. So I love your description of how you discovered the subject.
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting the way subjects are discovered. Some of us, I think, plan our subjects, and then some of us find our subjects.
Yeah.
And I really relate to your description of you sort of had this gift of forced time, like
Yeah.
you were like, I'm gonna spend some time here, and then that was empty enough that things actually became important around you in a way that they
Right.
wouldn't normally. I just really relate to that. I liked your description of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Other thoughts?
That toilet paper roll sitting on top. Yeah, the way you described it, the laziness,
Yeah.
when you first said that, my first thought was, oh, it must be broken. So that was so interesting. You said that your intent was, it's lazy, and I was like, oh, it's busted, it's gotta be broken, so of course.
That's more
But
charitable.
yeah, isn't that interesting? I just heard that, I was like, I was wondering what the intent, if it was meant to, was it like the lazy action, or was it really just? That's
Maybe it
interesting.
was broken. I just went to selfishness. But yeah, I guess that.
I was like, oh, that's kind of busted, but wait, I didn't even think that, yeah, it would be so interesting.
I like how sneaky you are in photographing your subject. I think kind of inappropriate, or what, not inappropriate, nobody knows, it's, anonymous, nobody would know except me. photographs, or I'm sorry, I'm for paintings. Because I did that with my therapist. They collected rubber ducks.
Other thoughts? Moving on, move on to, Jessie Burns is not here, unfortunately. But she also kind of ties into the trophy and the Vanitas paintings. Oh, somebody's trying to get in. And then we have Amy Applegate here. And I mean, I like this object. It's a mysterious object. It's not clear what it is, but it's actually a brush holder. But we do have Stuart here, so I want to hear from Stuart. I love this painting. The foot is the first thing I noticed, and I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be like, is there a person leaping in the background? Are they like, what's going on with? Is someone ascending to heaven, or are they? Is it a suicide? I don't know. What's going on in this? Stuart, do you want to talk about this?
Well, yeah, the main object is the table, and the table is so my grandmother died in the early 2000s, like 2001, and I kind of inherited her house as a young man, just as a caretaker, and so a lot of her objects. I lived there for a while. It was during actually, I lived there prior to that as a younger man in high school, where I learned to paint. But my first few years of college, I lived in that house after she had passed. So this is a table. I don't know if it was particularly important to her. It could have been something that she got like at a thrift store or something, that it just kind of was always there. And it was, I think, you know, when thinking about like kind of prompt for this, like the kind of the T.S. Eliot like objective correlative or whatever this I had to look around because I don't really hang on to too many things like that. And I was trying to come up with an idea. I was trying to think about what I would want to paint, and I was like, oh no, here's this thing in my studio that's kind of always been in my studio, that's always been kind of imbued with these like kind of painful memories, but also really good memories. I had this table when I was learning to play chess. So there's a kind of a crude chess matrix on the top, or a chessboard on the top. So, and I'm always inventive. So I thought that I would put a painting behind the table just to kind of signify that it was in my space. And I always, I thought, I don't know if I was thinking subconsciously about feet, because the table has feet. But there's some mojo in the air that just begged for a foot. I tried it with a portrait first, but it didn't work. So that's kind of what that is. And if you want to, I'm actually sitting in my studio now, so you might be able to see it in my messy studio. Kind of my. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there it is. It's been in my studio for the last 20 years now. So. Yeah, that's what it is, but it also kind of has this memory attached to it, or this person, I guess, attached to it.
That's awesome. Other thoughts? Should we move on? How are we doing for time?
Great.
Okay. I used to teach it, and I would always say that. I always say, any thoughts? Any thoughts? In a kind of panicked way. We've got Andrew Gordon here. Let's talk about this while we're in this room. This is Andrew Gordon's stove painting. Another painting. I just love this painting. Because we've all lived in this apartment. I feel like everybody's lived there. And it's such a, like, I do this in my house. I leave this light on. That's like the night light in the kitchen. That's like just to make things like a little less lonely, and like just in case you got to get up in the middle of the night or get a glass of water. Like, it's very comforting, that little oven light. It's the perfect light. Andrew, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is at the apartment I was living in at the time in Waltham, Massachusetts. And yeah, you're right about the light. I mean, the light was kind of in some ways the real focus of the painting. I think I'd been looking at a lot of Edward Hopper at the time, and I've always been interested in the way someone like that can paint like a house, you know, in the sunlight, and in spite of the very seemingly simple and mundane sort of subject matter, you know, extract a really kind of mysterious and almost uncanny feeling. And so I think that was kind of, you know, in the back of my mind. And so I wasn't explicitly thinking of that, but like, you know, I think I was trying to achieve the same kind of effect of, you know, a very sort of mundane subject matter, but somehow with the quality of light, trying to extract some sort of strange feeling or sort of, you know, mysterious feeling, I guess. I'm not sure what else I can really say about it.
The lighting is amazing. I love it. I mean, it is so comforting because but you mentioned Edward Hopper, and his lighting is amazing, and it's just so different because yours is incandescent, and like I'm really into light temperature. You know, and how well the blue of the daylight and the especially if these lights, you know, are still all the lights.
You can, on the side, you can see this orangey warm underpainting. It definitely, yeah, it warms up the whole thing.
I went to a concert recently, and there's a song that the person sings about. They mention a stovepipe in it, and before the song, they were like, "Yeah, you know, growing up, me and my mom would sit like in the kitchen with the stove light on, and they were like really special memories." And so I saw this painting and it made me think of that, and also think of, you know, like just any night when dinner's over and the kitchen's clean, everyone's in bed, you just want a bit of peace or just like to yourself. Yeah.
That's what I noticed. It's so clean. There's like nothing out. There's no.
You know,
It's like.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I was painting it, I didn't want there to be any like really overt sort of personal, you know, objects or overt sort of, you know, narrative, you know, elements or implications, so that there's a sort of blankness to it, so that, you know, you can kind of bring your own interpretation to it, and it's sort of yeah, somehow that was part of the painting to me, the sort of blankness of it.
It also heightens the compositional integrity of it in a way, so that clear geometry, the way it's pieced together.
Yeah. There's a drawer here, and I can't tell if it's just open a little tiny bit or if it's just an old drawer that won't close all the way. But I find that I like that. That's this little cabinet here to open just a pinch. I find that so relatable. I have drawers that don't close. I have that. I love that. Let's see. Remove pin. That might work. Oh, yeah. There we go. Now we can see you.
That's so cool.
Hey. Should we move on? Let's go back to Nancy. Well, if we have time, we'll get to Nancy and Tess, and I'll make sure we'll come back. Oh, there's music outside. Damn, there's a Wicker Park Festival happening out there. But while we're here, yeah, like right here, we've got Emil here. Let's talk about his piece. Yeah, there you are. Cool.
Hey.
Can you tell us a little bit about your painting? About you?
Sure.
Place here.
It's a little mysterious to me, why I choose certain objects. And I've given it a lot of thought. One thing I know for sure is that it's not premeditated in any kind of conscious way. I'm not trying to tell a particular story. And in fact, I think for me, I really believe in the power of a painting to speak in its own language. And I know that some artists are capable of managing a narrative and a painting, and those two things come together in a profound way. And maybe that's an aspiration of mine at some point, but I like to think that a lot can happen with very little in a painting, and it's what you do with it. You know, right now I'm not making still life paintings. I'm painting interiors. And so when I made that painting, I was having a very particular relationship to my studio. And my studio it's an old apartment, and it has multiple rooms. And the rooms have remnants of living spaces. And one of those remnants is just a mantle above an old fireplace. The apartment was built in the late 1800s. And that mantle has like, I guess it's west facing windows that shine light onto it. And that particular light, it doesn't have the evenness, you know, of like a southern or northern window, but it has like an actual flavor. Like the window light it's very beautiful, and it has a true personality. Its personality is not like, you know, tofu waiting for sauce. It's like it's got a personality. And the color of the light and the quality of the feeling of me being in that space with that light was everything to me. And when I was painting objects, someone used the word uncanny. I think it was Andrew. I was very simple in my choices, and I didn't deliberate very long. I would wait until something felt layered, textured, uncanny, uncertain, and also beautiful to me subjectively. And then that object would be placed in this context where the light was the whole story. And then the painting was actually a challenge to me to create meaning from one thing that was kind of itchy to me, which was the object. Like, I don't know how to handle this, because I don't want to make a painting, in this case, about a couple brushes and a dustpan. I want to make a painting about something else. But that challenge is beautiful. Can you make both? Can you give someone the name of something in a painting? I know what that is in the painting. And yet make them feel as if they're not really sure what they're feeling. And it's much larger and hopefully deeper. And I think that if I paint something bigger than just the space I'm in this case, I'm painting the light filling the space, eroding the certainty of the objects, then the painting will have some of that, you know, that's part of it. There's a lot of other stuff. I'm really interested in abstraction. My paintings are organized in a kind of modernist sort of way. I'm very interested in things that were discovered or maybe heightened about color during modernism. Artists like Ad Reinhardt, whose paintings built space out of color relationships That kind of thing is one of my preoccupations. So I think I pick things not because of narrative, but because of paintings, you know, because I think a painting might come to life. I'm sure there's more I could say if you ask me questions.
Yeah, I love your work, and I just want to turn this around. I love how you managed to work so much color into something that is colorless. Like there's purple, there's blue, there's yellow, there's green, like every color of the rainbow is in there. It's the most beautiful dustpan I've ever seen. It's the most beautiful brush I've ever seen. And like the love that you take or give these objects, like they're just, I just want to lick that dustpan. It's so like, oh, it's so perfect. It's so beautiful. And there's not a single like hair or crumb in those brushes. They're just perfect brushes. But so I will be honest, this is a painting that like, I didn't even care what this was about. I just wanted to show this painting because it's so beautiful. It's the most beautiful dustpan.
I just have a comment. So it's one of my favorite paintings in the exhibition. And the reason why it's my favorite is because the way that I deal with the chaos in the world is cleaning. So I always feel like, oh, well, everything's going bad, but if I can clean, I can make something better and I can improve something in the world, in my life. I'm working towards making something better. And so when I saw it, it was like elevating that feeling of making the world better through these things that are cleaning our world. And so it resonated with me in that way. And also just how, that it's brand new, like it's never been used before. And so that also really resonated with me about thinking about cleaning supplies, especially one that's like mirrored, kind of seems like a dustpan from maybe the 50s or something, like a vintage dustpan that they don't make anymore, that is like a collector's item. So in that regard, I really enjoyed this painting in so many levels. Like you said, it is the most beautiful brush you've ever seen. So
Yeah, it's a dustpan for like a wood shop, you know, it's like a construction dustpan. So it's used all the time. Just, you know, not that particular one, maybe that's in my studio, but people use them all the time. But I love the first thing you said. I don't have the same experience with cleaning, but I do know that there's a faith and a love for me when I start a painting. And I find that over the course of the painting, my experience is of filling the painting very slowly with energy, you know, and finding that it continues to open. And that's usually the surprise, is that, you know, I never know maybe when it's going to be done, because I'll come back and it can still, more can be pushed into it, kind of like, and pulled out of it. But yeah, I mean, it's very sort of sentimental, but I'm fairly sentimental, and I do want to make the world a better place. And I do think that making things traditionally beautiful is very important. It's very important to me.
wow, thank you.
I'm nodding, but you can't see it, but I've been nodding with everything you said. How are we doing for time? We're okay.
Yeah, just
Okay.
keep going.
Okay. Oh, while we're here, I want to talk about Drea Cofield's paintings. We've got a couple of hers. They're very small. She's been making paintings of selfies, not only her own, but people send them to her. And this is a pretty sexy selfie here. But I love that because like it's a very good example of an object that after you break up with somebody, like what do you do with the sexy selfie? You should delete it. It doesn't really like physically exist anywhere, but she's made it physical now, and it's just a great little painting. But if you notice carefully, there's a little painter's easel here, and there's a very blue palette, and this is the painting she was working on when this selfie was taken. So I love these two side by side, and I love, I don't know if anyone will catch it, but I was just hoping someone might. But that's Drea Cofield in a nutshell. What else? We have Lina Tharsing here. She inherited her home from her parents. And this was one of the things her parents installed, this space heater. And she has all these questions for them. They've both since passed, and she can't ask them about it. Why did you put this here? And it also, like, for painters, like, she saw Via Selman's space heater painting when she was like 18 or 19. And that was like a very important painting for her, which was a very important painting for me and probably every other painter. You see that space heater painting and you say, like, I'm gonna make a space heater painting someday. Moving on. And then Ben, I want to hear from you also, since you're here, we've got you. This is Maxey. She grew up in a very conservative home in, oh gosh, I'm gonna get it wrong. I want to say Kentucky, but that might be wrong. Maybe that's Lina is Kentucky. But she grew up in a conservative home, and they went to Cracker Barrel a lot, I guess. And people who have been to Cracker Barrel say, yes, they have those. And for her, like, she doesn't really talk to them anymore, and she's severed this part of her life. But for her, this kind of game reminds her of that time in her life and that place in her life. And I do not have that relationship with this game, but I love that could be so, it could be contained in there. Her family, she said her family sees, like, they always see signs. They're always looking for signs and things, and they have a lot of kind of mystical thinking. Moving on, we're going to Dabin On's painting. Alma, I know you spoke with Dabin for a while about this painting. And do you want to talk about it, just so it's not me talking about it? Sure. Thank you. Here, I don't see.
So what I learned from my short conversation at the opening. So when I first looked at it, I thought it was a butterfly that was flying by a fragment of a piece of glass, and it was seeing its own reflection. But it turns out it's actually a fragment of a vessel, like a historical Korean vessel with a painted butterfly on it. And so it's kind of this dichotomy of this fragment of a vessel that has survived time and an immortal alive butterfly that is flying by it. I love the symbolism of the butterfly, just because it's, for me, it's like dead loved ones saying hello or communicating with us from another world, but also just thinking about the transformation piece. That's my own attachment that I put. That's not what he said, but he does a lot of paintings of butterflies and candles, and the lighting is just spectacular. But I love the idea of something that had survived and then something that was alive and had a finite time to live, and then this other thing that was a fragment of something that had survived, that was an imitation of what was looking at it. So yeah, that's what I learned.
Yeah, I know it's about his parents.
Oh yes,
and like the
mortality,
knowing that you'll lose them at some point, and that's like something we all have to go through, and it's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible, but here's a beautiful painting. You can think about that instead. And this painting is Jeff Lee painted this. When I saw it, I knew like, okay, a chair suggests the presence of a person. And I didn't know like, you know, is a specific person. But I know that this is very much about Venezuela, and this tree that grows there is very common and normally is very colorful. It has been left unpainted because things are not great there right now. And it's a kind of a personal painting. I'm just rushing through real quick. I want to just show this painting by Miho. This is, I mean, we've all lived through this, right? Like, it's called Connection. This is about helping your elderly parents with their Wi-Fi and their DVD player, and you're on the phone and you're like, okay, it's that struggle. So but it's yeah, it's called Connection. It's perfect. We have Polly Shindler. And for me, like, I just love this painting because there's a suitcase and I think we're unpacking. I don't know if we're packing or unpacking. We're packing, we're going somewhere. And these are just so small. Are they baby clothes? Are they adult clothes? I don't know. And you just smash your kids' things in with your things. And I love the kind of chaos of this painting. A lot of Polly's paintings are very much about pleasure. There's just like, there's travel, there's like good food, there's a lot of pleasure in her paintings. This is maybe one of the cheerier ones, because I think earlier we said that that all painting is about death. So this one's like, this is kind of, it's not, a little happier. We briefly at least touched on everybody, but Ben, as long as we have you here, do you want to say anything? Do you want to talk? Ben wrote the essay in the catalog, the beautiful essay.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah, I guess the way that came about, you know, it's Gwen had asked me to write something for it along the theme, right? And you know, I thought the Freud quote and Gwen's follow-up was really, you know, encapsulated everything pretty well. So I was like, oh geez, what am I gonna what else am I going to say? And you know, I was looking at a lot of the work and getting inspired by that, and the way that like there was like narratives and, you know, playing with time, like sense of time in a lot of the work. For, you know, the little tile and butterfly painting, for example. The way that showed like a permanent object with a transient one. So looking at the work, I was, you know, starting to get some ideas, but the kind of easiest way to start was to write about these objects from my own life. And I thought of like structuring them as like kind of the ideas in the chapters of the essay could be embodied by these kind of objects I knew. And then that kind of gave me a gateway to talk about some of the, yeah, just like the way these objects mark our lives and our windows to like greater things, you know, even though they're circumscribed because it's this physical thing that's not going to change. It becomes a window to memories, and that's this infinite and always changing space. So yeah, it was I guess that was like kind of the process of writing it, and the work was kind of always shifting what paintings people were gonna contribute. So it was hard to like, I didn't like attempt to write about people's work head on, but I did, when things got more established, I did try and slip in references to all the work in these subtle ways. I think Lim, there was like a fake out because I referenced your towel painting, but that didn't end up being used. But yeah, other than that, I think I tried to like touch on some of them just by talking about them in terms of examples.
My favorite example in your essay is the cookie jar. He describes this like big, heavy, ugly, stupid, duck-shaped cookie jar that was in his parents' house when he was growing up. And he describes the sound of like taking the lid off the cookie jar, and the cookie jar had dog treats in it. And the dog knew the sound and would come running to get a treat. And one day your mom asks you, do you want this thing? And you're like, I forgot how you said it. You said like, absolutely yes, even though like against all
Yeah.
reason that you want this big, heavy, dumb thing that you're gonna have to carry with you every time you move. But I love that. We all have those. That's beautiful. Does anybody else? Any thoughts, feelings? What time is it?
The quarter after.
Yeah, that's good.
Good.
That's good. Yeah. Other-
Just a quick one with the landscape, because that's like the only exterior, right? Because they're all interior, so I was confused about that one. It has this kind of cozy feeling to it, or this almost you're out in the winter and the sun's going down, and so you're thinking it's time to go in or something. I was kind of interested about that.
I know Drea spoke much more eloquently about it than I'm about to. But I know like that's she grew up in Indiana, and that's like her childhood home, and she's in New York now, but I know it means a lot to her, but I can't tell you exactly what. But yes, yeah, it's mostly interiors, but it's good to have someone pushing the boundary. I think that's it. I think we did good. I think we're done. Good job, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
I just wanted to say that I think it's really cool how you chose artists whose paintings show such diverse relationships to objects. I think that was really cool on your part. Like there was such a nice mix of work. And I loved hearing from Laura right off the bat. Something stuck with me the whole time, which was the idea of multiple spaces within one space. And I love that, Laura. I think that's so great. And that's totally, I mean, that's how it works I feel like in paintings.
Yeah.
But yeah, really great job, Gwen.
Thank you, everyone. All right.